Hey guys, it is Rhapsody and welcome back to another video by the Circus system. It's been a minute, as it usually is. I feel like we start every video saying it's been a minute. But we talked a little bit on our Instagram about why this video has been taking so long, and that is because of the topic. So we're doing a book review, which we've done others of, but the subject of the book review has actually come up in current current times, I guess. I don't know, like it's an older memoir, but he is becoming relevant right now, and if you've seen the title of the video, you know who it is, and that is Hershal Walker. So we were very hesitant on making this video because we don't want to really seem like we are supportive of him at all, I guess, in his current stance in the political climate, because we're very not. But we're not going to talk about that really in this video. That is the biggest thing. On top of our normal trigger warning disclaimer that comes up at the beginning of all of our book reviews, this video specifically comes with a secondary disclaimer. So this review today is solely about Hershal Walker's book, Breaking Free. We will only be talking about this book. We will not be commenting on anything involving him now. We will solely be talking about his experiences in this book and how he discusses his experience with his DID. That is all this video will be about. I didn't mean to realize that we're both wearing red polos. I just want to make that very clear. So this is solely about Hershal Walker Breaking Free. That is all this review is about. Now I'm going to go into the actual book review. So this book review is going to follow our similar kind of our similar system of reviewing that we're just going to be using for all of our book reviews, which has only been The Dead House up till now, which is we will be doing a simple synopsis first. We will be talking about the writing style and the quality of the writing of the book. We will then go into the DID representation and how we feel about it, and then go into our final thoughts. So I'm going to start right off the bat with our trigger warning list, which I'm going to say as well as pop up on the screen. This book has a shorter one because it just does. So really I have my laptop to the side here with all of the information. So that's why I'm looking to the side, because I actually write up these reviews. So trigger warnings for heavy discussion of religion, specifically Christianity, mentions and discussions of self-harm, and Russian roulette specifically, I feel like could be triggering for some people, and that is involved. Let's get into it. So, synopsis. Breaking Free is a memoir by renowned football player Hershal Walker. In this, he talks about his struggles going through school and sports, while struggling with undiagnosed dissociative identity disorder. With his current insight, he talks about his past and how his DID was both a help and a hindrance through most of his life. In his young years, he struggled a lot with being bullied. As an overweight black child in the 70s, he was targeted by many different groups. This bullying, in combination with the harsh world of the time, Hershal created altars in order to survive. Young Hershal also found great faith in Christianity, which for him helped save his life as well. Once he reached high school and began playing track and football, things really were looking up for Hershal. With the help of his faith and his altars, he thrived in both sports. Once he had graduated college, his focus was more on football, and there he began to make an even more prominent name for himself within the industry. So that would be my little back of the book if I were to write my own. I have a lot of feelings about this book. Not a lot of them are great. So when it comes to the quality of the writing in this book, it is painfully obvious that Hershal is not a writer. And I feel like I can't necessarily fault him for that in this. But it was hard to read. I was reading this book for a while because the paragraph spacing is just really odd. There's a lot of run-on sentences and run-on thoughts. He'll just go on for he'll start something, but then he'll be like, oh, that makes me think of this, and he'll just go on this whole other tangent and then just jump right back into the original story, and I'm just like, what? Because on top of that, it's just not very well written. And it's just, there's not, it's really hard to follow a consistent stream of thought because there isn't one. It's a lot of bouncing around. There isn't much of a, like, you can kind of create a timeline because he definitely starts in like his younger days when he was getting bullied really, really bad, and then goes into high school and into college, and then to adulthood, like from there. There is that progression, definitely, but there just is a lot of hopping around and a lot of movement of story that is just, it was really hard to get into, on top of just it not being well written. So I almost don't want to fault the book too much for that, because again, Hershal is not an author, he's not a writer, that's not what he does. But that's kind of a big important part of reading a book, is you have to be able to read the book. When it comes to the actual DID representation, I think it's wonderful. The fact that it's a memoir, of course, makes it a little easier to just kind of agree with it than a work of fiction. What I think really sets it apart from a lot of other memoirs is Hershal's background. Being someone who checks almost every box for your typical like masculine man, you don't see that representation in the DID community a lot. Even as like a mostly non-binary, like identifying like us as a whole, I as Rhapsody am entirely non-binary. Either way though, I could never really understand growing up in a male-bodied growing up in a male body as a system, or really just as someone struggling with mental health, because there's so much more stigma around like masculine people having emotions. So I feel like having someone who is not only just a male representation, having someone who is like a man's man, if you will, like, you know what I'm like trying to say, like, yeah. I feel like it opens up a dialogue with a group of people who are a lot more typically guarded about their emotions and mental health. It opens up a door to a group of people who may be more nervous to talk about their mental health with someone who they may idolize. As well as that, Hershal, being a black man who grew up in the height of the civil rights movement, gives another very personal look at issues that only could be spoken about by someone who experienced it. As a white, mostly woman, I can't speak much on those struggles, as I have no way to even conceptualize what it is like to be a person of color. But I feel like Breaking Free does well as giving some insight. Walker's system didn't stem from the same kind of trauma you see most writings about. It was formed from a mixture of intense bullying and the effects of racism. This isn't a story that we often see in published writings, more in personal stories online. So it was nice to see a different perspective for myself, but also another system can look at this as a first-hand take, something that they may not have had many chances of having. I feel like I said that last part a little weird, but I wrote it here nicer than I was just trying to say. But as a white, mostly female person, like, I don't understand a lot of that, and I never will. So I feel like having someone who does can be a good good source for those who deal with those struggles. So, in conclusion, I honestly would recommend this book. It's a hard read, but I feel like the story behind it is really good and can be very informative for both systems and allies alike. Considering current things, this is the only bit I'll speak on that would maybe hinder my recommendation a little bit. I still think as a basis, this can be really nice, again, for someone in those demographics who are discovering their system or struggling to accept their system. I think this can still be a really good resource. I just think that he may not be someone to idolize the way that I would have originally thought when first writing this. But yeah. So I would give Breaking Free, honestly, probably only like a 3.5, maybe 3 out of 5, just because the writing is not great. But as far as DID representation goes, it gets 5 out of 5 for me. So leave it at that. And thank you guys so much for watching. We have a whole little stack of more books for this book review series, some being fiction and some being more memoirs, so we will have a bit of a variety going forward. The next one I'm reading is going to be another memoir because that library book is due first. And then from there I have a couple other fiction ones. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. And we will see you next time whenever we post. We want to try to stick to our every other week, but we've clearly been bad at that. So we'll see you whenever we see you. We'll always post on Saturday. Bye, guys.